right. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me in the back okay? All right. I know we're a couple minutes early, but we'll start getting warmed up. I know it's the morning. I know you got done standing already for Kent. Um, so if I could get everybody to stand up and loosen up a little bit here. We got a long, fun day ahead of us. Great. All right. Roll the shoulders. There you go. Get the. Oh, I got the cracks. Anybody else get the back cracks? Yeah. All right. And if you could as well, if your birthday is on an odd number day, hold your arms straight out. Odd birthdays, 1, 3, 5, 20. Wait, 21. And if your birthday is on an even number day, 2, 4, 8, 42. Together, good. Over here. There we go. Good. You have a seat. And now I get to tell my wife I got a standing ovation. All right. Uh, so good morning. My name is Dustin Thostinson. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. Anybody know where Iowa is? USA. Yeah. So you've got LA, sorry, LA, New York, and everybody flies over Iowa. So small farming area. It's a good place to be home. So we're going to talk about techniques to tackle tech debt today. If I get excited and I start to speak quickly and you can't understand me, please let me know, like slow down. So we'll start off here with a shocking opener. Has anybody ever done home electrical work? A little bit? Has anybody ever gotten shocked? My people. So we moved into a new house about 6 years ago, and I walked into my closet in the bedroom, and I was confused because it was dark. And then I walked back into the bathroom later on, and I was confused because the light was still on. It was bright. And I remembered that in our old house, I'm lazy. So I put motion sensing lights in all of the rooms. So when I would walk in, the light would turn on. When I would walk out, the light would turn off. And it's just a light switch. It's easy to do. You go and you turn off the breaker switch, you cut the power, and you take some screws out, and there's three wires. There's a ground wire and a black and a white wire. That's all I know. So you turn the switch and you replace it a couple wires, and you go back to the breaker and turn it on, and come back and test it again. You see where I'm going with this, right? A lot of walking. So then I thought, I don't need to turn the power off. As long as I don't touch the wires, it's okay. So I electrocuted myself probably a dozen times in that first week I was changing all the switches. And I found all different ways to fail. A wire would have some spring to it, and it would hit my finger and it would give me a shock. Or the screwdriver would slip and it would hit the other wire and poof, blow the fuse. I know all the ways to get electrocuted now. In the US, it's only 110 volts, so it didn't kill me. But I thought about that, and when I had an electrician come in to build a plug for my car, that was much higher electricity, more volts, and I wasn't going to tell him what to do because professionals are hired to act like professionals. If I want to be a dummy, that's my choice. But when I hire the electrician, I am hiring them to act like a professional where they do what they think is best. They turn off the power to the room, they make the change, they turn the power on. So I see the looks on your face. What does this have to do with tech debt? I've been a software developer for over 2 decades now. And as a software developer, We have high skills. We make good money. We are professionals. But sometimes we let other people tell us how to do our job. We know how to build software well. We know how to write tests. We know how to deliver it. Yet sometimes people tell us how to do things, and then we're not being very safe, and we cause problems, and things break because somebody else is trying to tell us how to do our job. And I believe that as professionals, we should be able to act like professionals. So to get to the talk here, techniques to tackle tech debt today. The problem we're going to talk about is to say our tech debt is slowing our ability to deliver. There are a lot of definitions for tech debt, but I'm going big picture here. If you're trying to do something, change the website, push a config, update the database, how easy is it for you to go from an opportunity to the outcome? How many things in the way of getting that opportunity get in the way of that problem? And that's what we're going to talk about here. I think we're all aware that tech debt is probably one of the biggest problems that we've seen in our careers. I've worked with dozens of companies, hundreds of teams, thousands of developers, and every team has the same problem, which is why I'm talking about this today. Sandwiches and we get a big mess on the table, it slows me down. I've got a dirty table, I've got a bunch of junk in the way, it slows us down. And that red line talks about our ability to meet the user's needs or to have the predictability of results. If my wife asks me how long it's going to take to make a sandwich, if I've got everything laid out, very quick. But if there's a big mess and I don't have the bread and I don't have the cheese, it gets to be a bigger problem. So this is a real problem that our business has, that the developers have, and I think that there are some things that we can do to improve it. How many developers are in the room? Programmers? Beautiful, my people. What about people who are non-technical or not involved in writing the code? Scrum masters, product owners, QA, some? Okay, good. This talk is for everybody. So we're going to talk about issues with tech debt, and we're going to talk about technical things and interpersonal things. This morning, Kent talked about the people side of software, and that's something that I have learned is very important. The technology is easy. Learning people is hard. So we're going to talk about technical things, interpersonal things for ourselves, for our teams, and for our stakeholders. I've got the color coding in there. So green, blue, red, you'll see us progress through that. The QR code has all the slides. If you wanted to save them, I will show that at the end as well. All right, so let's start with ourselves here. You have tech debt. What can you do? This is what I normally see. I see people say, we have all these problems. And I said, what have you done? We've done nothing and we're all out of ideas. Jerry Weinberg's a fabulous author, very smart man. Things are the way they are because they got that way. So the first thing is when we get into tech debt, look back and appreciate. We did a lot of things. We wrote a lot of code. We solved a lot of problems. It helped us to get software into production. It helped the company make money. It helped solve user problems. That's okay. Don't look backwards and blame where we're at. It is what it is. We get to choose what we're going to do to move forward. So if you want to choose improvement, this is a very, very helpful model for me personally. At the center of this is our circle of control. This is what we have control over. I have control over myself, and that's it. And I struggle at that. If I had better control over myself, I'd probably be running more and I wouldn't have been in so much pain when we were walking the hills in Porto yesterday. But I can't control my wife. I can't control my team. I can control myself. The circle of influence are the people around you that you might be able to inspire some changes in behavior. And then the circle of concern are those areas that you might not be able to have control over or influence over, but it still may impact you. This is important because if you are going to tackle your tech debt issues, we have to start at that circle of control and you need to figure out what can you do about it. This was my latest addition this morning here. Always improving. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you want to solve the problem, do something. Try something. Don't tell yourself it's not going to work. You have to try something. And this is a very important mindset that I've learned about years ago. Has anybody heard of the responsibility principle? Daniel has, great. This is probably the most important model I've learned in my professional career. The basic idea of it is as we tell ourselves stories, as we run into a problem, we start from the bottom and we go up. Are we going to get to production at the end of the month? Yeah, no problem. We'll get to production. End of the month comes up. You didn't make it to production. Well, yeah, it's because Daniel didn't get his part done and the QA team didn't get theirs and we had bad specs and Bob wasn't doing a good job. You're telling yourself stories about why the problem is out there and you're helpless. There's nothing you could do about all those things. And when you're done blaming, when you're done putting the problem outside of you, you get into justify. We never go to production on time. We're always late. This company is not well organized. All these excuses. And they're read because they're not helping you. They're not making a good difference. When you get into shame, now you're blaming yourself. I'm such a dummy. I didn't plan it well enough. If I wrote better tests, we would have done this. And sometimes that's where people quit. Something bad happens. You call yourself an idiot. You don't give yourself some grace for just being a human. Your kid gets sick. Things pop up. It happens. Obligation is when you start to do the right thing for the wrong reason. We didn't make it to production. I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to work all weekend. I'm going to cancel the date with my spouse. I'm going to skip the kids' games. Have to, but don't want to. So if you find yourself an obligation, it's not your choice, but you're trying to do the right thing and you're beating yourself up over it. Eventually, living above the line is responsibility. And it's not responsibility like accountability, it's your ability to respond. So if you're trying to solve problems, pay attention to the way that you look at the problem. Are you blaming people for the tech debt? Are you justifying that it's okay? Or are you looking at the problem in front of you thinking, what do I want to see out of this? If you can see what you want out of it, then you can make choices. It is your option. And there are going to be the links to this. There's a YouTube video, good stuff. So first I have to take inventory. I have a tech debt problem. Do I have the will to fix this problem and do I have the skill? If I want to fix it and I know how to fix it, let's go. Let's get it done. If I want to fix it, but I don't have the skill, okay. Now you know what you need to do for yourself to fix the problem. If you know how to fix the problem, but you don't care, the problem's not going to get fixed. If your team has the ability to fix a problem, but they don't want to, it's not going to get fixed. And if you've got low will and low skill, it's just not going to happen. So at least here, if you have high will and low skill, that's good because you can learn. You can build up those skills. And how do we build up those skills? Well, the first thing is we have to recognize what causes tech debt, what causes all of these problems. And if we find ourselves in a hole, we should quit digging, quit making it worse. But do you know when you're in a hole? You might want to be able to recognize what code smells are. If you're working on the code and you can smell those symptoms of poor design, that's good. You have to see the problem and acknowledge the problem first. How does this make you feel? Not so good. I'm not going to go through all of these, but can you see things in this code that you think is not so good? I want you to think, how many things in this code base would you like to change? And if you were talking to one of your teammates, what words would you use to describe why this is bad? I stole this from Industrial Logic. It's a company based in the US. Josh Karyevsky is the owner. They have training materials, which includes this. And this is what they say. They have names for the problems. This black line, long method. Our method's too long. You might have felt that. Some people say yes, some people say no, and that's fine. I like having methods maybe 5 lines, 10 lines long. If I get to 25, I start feeling icky. If I'm at 250 lines in a method, I don't feel good about myself. You may find that instead of an if statement, we could use a switch statement. That could make it easier to read. The green one, alternative classes with different interfaces. Get elements at get. It's doing the same thing. Do we really need to have 2 different names for it? So learning this skill to be able to see things and to see I'm implementing an interface, but we're not doing anything with it, that's a refused bequest. Why have that method if it's not going to be used? This quick reference guide is very nice because it goes through all these names. All of the things that you've seen in bad code probably has a name to it. So if you can learn those names, that's great. You identify the smell, and then here are examples of what to do when you see that. Trigger response. Refactoring to patterns and Michael Feather's working effectively with legacy code. Here's some great places that you can learn how to identify the code smells and how to give them names. You don't have to argue with your teammate about how it feels. You can just say, no, this is a refused bequest. This is a code smell, period. By definition. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's your feeling. But these are facts. And we can get into other code smells too. Temporal coupling is a common one. We heard Kent talk about that. You know, do we have things that are tied back and forth? Or do we put the things together that change together and reduce the coupling between them? There's things that we can do to support our code better. We can have big tests, test the entire feature, have a bunch of little tests. If you don't know how to do this, that's fine, but that's homework that you can do. It's an older picture. I wish Kent was here so he could enjoy that picture. The main idea that I think about a lot is make the change easy, warning, this may be hard, then make the easy change. So again, will and skill. Can you identify the problem and can you fix it quickly? If you can't, if you don't have that ability yet to see a problem and quickly fix it, practice that. There we go. Has anybody done a code kata before? Familiar with them? Great, great. Emily Beisch over here in Europe, she's up in Sweden. She has a GitHub repo with every code kata possible in all languages. Yes, even COBOL. In martial arts, they would have the concept of katas. You're not fighting, you're practicing on blocking and punching and kicking. I'm not going to kick. You focus on the mechanical movements of the thing that you're trying to do. So when you actually get into a fight, you don't have to think about it. A code kata allows you to practice solving problems. Gilded Rose is a really good one. Big ugly code base, practice it. Practice making the changes, extracting a method, renaming things, move it into a class. If you practice the muscle memory, when you're doing real code, you're not thinking, how do I fix this? Because you practice that. So when you do these things, it allows you to see the smell and fix it quickly. And now we start getting into the psychology. We get the cue. This stinks. Routine. Extract method, rename method, extract class, done. Run the test. And then you get a little reward. I did good. And you get to do this many times per day. I don't have an answer for that. But I think about it, and I think about refactoring a lot. And you're not going to fix everything. You're not going to get it all. But if I do this, the other people on the team see that, and now they know what better looks like. So maybe somebody else will take my little thing that I built and go, I like that. Let's try to do that over here. As Kent mentioned this morning, the concept of having refactoring for 6 months, where at the end of it, they spent a bunch of money and they get the same code, that doesn't work. I've seen companies where they complain about tech debt and they say, fine, fix the tech debt. And 3 months go by and the team didn't know how to fix the tech debt. And now the company feels bad because they wasted all this time and money and they didn't get anything. So keep learning and keep making small things and you'll keep finding them changing. So that's enough right there for you to go home and be busy for months. If you don't have all those skills, there's plenty there. When you feel like you're good, now make the team better. You can do katas as a habit. I've worked with teams where we would spend 2 hours a week doing team katas. Sometimes 15 minutes after stand-up. Get the team together, practice on a kata, get used to it. We're not thinking about the business problem. We're thinking, how do we code it? How do we fix it? How do we work together as a team? Sometimes we like to divide and conquer as a team. You do part A, you do part B, you do part C. We'll split it all up. That sounds pretty good. Have anybody tried this before? Does it usually end up like that? It's really good theory. Individual optimization, resource utilization, everybody stays busy, but it never comes together well. And then we get blame. We have all the problems. So instead of dividing and conquering and having these PRs where each person's working and you put in your PR and you want somebody else to review it, That doesn't work that well either because people are thinking about different things. So what if we optimize to get the code and the fixes through the system? Again, we have an opportunity and we want to move it to an outcome. What if we got everybody together to do that at once? I'm seeing some head nods. There's some people who've used mob programming. Has it been good for you, bad for you? Yeah? But it doesn't make sense. You're telling me that we're going to get everybody together working on one problem? That seems expensive. But you've got the whole team focused on one problem. Here's an issue, boom, done. Next issue, boom, done. No PRs, no training, no worries about one person going to a meeting and their work stops. Everybody's working together. Everybody has different expertise. The UI people might see something. The back-end people might see something. Don't forget about this. Our security folks say, don't put the password in plain text. There's all things that the team can work together, and you can get that flow all the way through. But just like that, the team kata, we've learned how to work with technology. We go to college, we learn computers and coding. We watch YouTube videos, Stack Overflow. It's all about the technical stuff. And when you bring people together, sometimes it doesn't go so well. So practice that. If you want to try mobbing, actually learn how to do it. There's examples out there. Willem Larson, I used to work with him. He has a RPG, role-playing game. And you practice having different people take different roles. The driver, they type. The navigator, they give directions. So if Daniel knows the answer, Daniel doesn't code it. Daniel tells me what to type because we learn by doing. So if I'm typing, I'm learning. And that way the whole team can work better. So if Daniel's gone, I can still do it. I don't have to keep relying on him. I should have a trigger warning on this one because some people don't like this slide. Our team has to do work, and the product owner and the scrum master decides the team's work. That's actually a myth. Here's some quotes from the Scrum Guide. This is, again, going back to facts, not how people have been implementing Scrum, but the way it's, I'm going to get out of your way because I see some people ready to bring this back to work. The resulting plan is created by the collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. The whole Scrum team collaborates to define a sprint goal. The sprint backlog is a plan by and for the developers. If your team is working where Scrum Masters or product owners or managers are telling the team what to do, and they are telling the team, you can't address tech debt because that's how Scrum works. That's not true. I think that the developers should be able to just do whatever they want. But your whole team needs to come together and say, our kitchen is really messy. We're going to clean the kitchen up a little bit before we make more sandwiches. Your whole team should be working together on this. And a big part of this is going to be focus. You can't solve all of the problems at once. Focus on what you're trying to do. If you have a big code base and it's messy and you think you have to fix everything, here's a little tool that will look at your code base and it will go through the files and find out how complex are your files and how often do those files change. So you may know that the code is messy, but those two green files, They're kind of messy, but they change a lot. So if that's the place that you're going to be going often, get that cleaned up. I like my kitchen clean because we go there often. The workbench in my garage, it's messier, but I don't go there so often. So I'm going to focus on keeping the kitchen clean and the bathroom clean. If I change a file a lot and it's not that complex, leave it be. The red one up on top, if it's really messy, but you don't have to touch it, maybe that's that big core engine that your company runs off of. It has all the complex algorithms. If that works, leave it be. But figure out where do you want to go so you don't have to solve all of the problems. And if you get overwhelmed with too many things to do for your team or they try to do everything, keep it simple. One theme of the week. This week, if you go into a class and it has global variables in it, extract them. Pass the global variable into the method. That's simple. Try to isolate your state. One simple thing, everybody's doing it. If a bunch of PRs come through and you see that people are taking global values and passing them in, that's what you expect. Maybe next week we start to extract methods. You got if statements that are very deeply nested, and then there's the thing you want to do. Let's just pull that method out, put it someplace else, and that's just a simple thing we're going to do for now. Don't get overwhelmed. You can extract a class each week. You can make stateless functions in C#. I like extension methods. Make a method stateless, and then you can attach it to anything so it's easy to find. Maybe you decide that you want to start introducing factory patterns. We're instantiating objects in a bunch of spots. This week, we're going to pull out and get the extension or a factory in there. This is something your whole team can do, your whole department can do. Find some different ways to just agree and make sure you're taking baby steps forward. Always be improving. And all the changes don't have to be perfect. Maybe you just chop it up. It's a small improvement. Keep making those little changes. I like how James talks about the loops at the top of the. And another idea is to decouple your dependencies. I've worked at companies where basically in their software, every time you changed the oil, you had to make sure the radio still worked. When I was younger, we would replace car stereos. And the nice thing is, we would get a new car stereo from the pawn shop, and we would plug it in on the workbench. We gave it some power, we hooked up some speakers, and we wanted to see, does the stereo work? Does this radio work? We tested it in isolation, and then we'd plug it into the car and do one last check. But we already knew the radio worked. We already knew it could play CDs or cassettes or 8-tracks, if you think I'm that old. But define what those interfaces are and take your component out. If you have a website and the website is too big, it's okay to do ugly things sometimes to make a small improvement. I had one team, they introduced an iframe. Now, I was used to thinking iframes are bad and then they go back. But the team didn't have to worry about the entire organization changing the website at once. They made their own module that worked by itself. So they could work on it and they could test it, and every one of their failures was just to them. They didn't impact everybody else. They kept making little mistakes, get smacked in the face, fix it, and then when they plugged it into the big website, it just worked. So keep all those changes small, allow your team to discover, to experiment, and maybe even split up your pipelines. If each module has its own pipeline, I can test that the radio works. At the end, we have to bring everything together for a big application, but at least the radio worked. When we pull it all together, we'll still test. When I start the car, can I hear the radio? Are all the speakers working? Do the steering wheel controls work? There's still some stuff, but the majority of the stuff, the team can figure out, does this work for us? A lot of times people have one big pipeline, 150 developers on one application, and every change you test it all together, and that causes a lot of problems. And as you're looking at these things, think about how you are organized. This looks pretty nice, huh? Pretty clean. We've got all of our wrenches there, and we've got our pliers and our sockets. So if I have to fix a leaky toilet, I know that I'm going to need one of these and one of those and some of that, and I can go through and pick the things that I need. If I need to work on my car, I'll find the 10mm socket. I don't have Band-Aids here, but I'd need Band-Aids, probably some wrenches, and each time I find something, I know where to go back. This is functional optimization. You might also see this as my design team, my UI team, my API team, the DevOps team. That's the function. And if we need to do something, I need a little bit from the UI team, and then we have to get to the DevOps team and the QA team. If you change your mindset to get organized on purpose, now what you can do is you can have a bag of tools for plumbing. When my toilet when my toilet needs to get fixed, I grab a toolbox for everything I need to fix my plumbing. If I need to work on my car, I have a toolbox for everything I need for my car. When my kid puts a hole in the wall, I have a drywall kit. I have all the things I need to do to fix the wall. I have Band-Aids in every one of those toolboxes. But I have what I need, where I need, when I need it. And this might seem simple, but as it became apparent to me, I see this as a major problem in organizations. Our code base, controllers, helpers, data access layer, validation. If I add the middle name to a person, I have to go on my data access layer, add the middle name. Validator, add middle name. Mapper, helper, controller. I have to go to all these different places. But, like Kent was talking this morning, if I have a folder that says person, all of the things for the person are there. Data access, validation, business logic. Every time I change a person, it's all right there. And now, if I need to pull that out and put it someplace else, it's cohesive. The things that change together stay together. But if I organize my code with controllers and helpers and validators, you have to go all over the place. This is an easy change that you can make in your code base today. Move things around, everything should still work. All right. So we've talked about what we can do with ourselves. We talked about with our team what we can do. Now this is the hard part. You want to improve your tech debt, but you have stakeholders. When I first learned about the Peter principle, it basically said people are promoted until they reach a level at which they are incompetent. You're a good developer, cool, now you're tech lead. You're a good tech lead, cool, now you're manager. You're a good manager, great, now you're a director. You suck at being a director. Do they move you back down to manager? No. You might just kind of stay there. And you might not be a VP, you might not be a CTO. This is a common thing, and I used to blame people for it. That idiot is Peter Principled. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more empathy, and I recognize everybody is doing their best in all the different types of jobs. Everything that you do, it's new challenges, it requires different things, and it's hard. So I have empathy for people being good at the old thing they did and having to learn something new. I also recognize that they are under a lot of pressure. The poop rolls downhill, so to say. Your board of directors is worried about the stock price. The CEO and CTO have their worries. They tell the VP to fix it. The VP tells the director to fix it. Your managers are being said, get stuff done. And everybody is trying to do their best not to be blamed. And that usually ends with developers and especially QA. QA gets the stuff late. They work on it. They don't have enough time. And when it goes to production and there's problems, they blame QA. They blame the developers. This is kind of how things are, and that's okay. So if you want to work with these different levels, you have to think about consulting. And again, Jerry Weinberg, consulting may be defined as the art of influencing people at their request. You cannot control them. If they want to be influenced, you can help them. But they have to want it for you to do that. Otherwise, you're inflicting, and people don't like inflicting. So how do you influence your managers? Meet them where they're at. Visualize your wasted time. Come back to Kent Beck here. Make the change easy, then make the easy change. So how do we do that? Anybody use Kanban boards? Yeah. Add a pre-factor column. Every time work comes through, just have the agreement. Before we work on it, we're going to look at the code and we're going to clean it up. We're going to clean the kitchen before we make a sandwich. And it doesn't change anything. You're probably going to do that anyways. But if you have a Kanban column, now you can put it into a tool. And every tool is a weapon if you hold it right. Who was thinking about Jira? So if you change your process slightly, now you can have a cumulative flow diagram. And I'm not going to get into these much, but the basic idea is work goes through the system, and as work gets done, this is the purple area, this is what's deployed, this is what's start. So you can see that this blue one gets bigger over time. It takes longer to make the change. But if you make the change easy and then make the easy change, you'll actually see a couple of things. Make the change easy starts to take less time because you've cleaned it up and you don't have as much cleaning to do later on. It also, notice how that is smaller up here? As you clean up, it allows you to get the other changes done quickly. So if your managers don't believe you that you need to clean it up, just start capturing the information. And you should see that the amount that you get done as a team will increase over time. That's better ROI. I'm not going to get into this, but at one point, I dumped all of the stories out of Jira, and I calculated the dev time efficiency. How much time is the team actually working on it? If you have to, get the data, look at it, find out how good the process really is. You can limit your work in progress. Another reference here from Jerry Weinberg. If I'm working on one thing, I am focused on one thing. If I'm working on two things, 20% of my time is wasted. Project A, all right, I got to go do project B. Let me forget that. What do we got going on here? Right? You have wasted time when you're switching your context. And that 20% wasted time is cumulative. It adds up. So this is the concept of thrashing. If you have me working on 5 things at once, I'm going to be thrashing and switching context. The same thing happens with our computers. If they thrash a lot, you have a bunch of wasted time. And this is all stuff that you can prove in Jira or whatever tool you're using. So get that manager to carry their big brown umbrella. Influence them to protect your team. It wasn't brown when they brought the umbrella. But protect the team. Allow them to focus on one thing and look over time to see what happens. If the people that you're trying to influence needs math, there's something called Little's Law. Give them the mathematical proofs. But don't make it a big bang. Have a bunch of small bangs. That a lot of little bangs is better than a big bang because it allows you to deliver, and eventually your proof is in the pudding. You're proving that the changes you're making are worth it. People need to see that because it's safe. If you're doing good things, they'll be safe from it. If you need to think about influencing, maybe John is the person that you need to influence because John makes the decisions, but you're down here. Find out who you can talk to. Give them good ideas so they can give somebody else good ideas. I like when I'm at an organization and somebody like John would come down and talk to me and he'll start using words that I introduced into the company. If John comes and says, we need to have boulders and rocks and pebbles and sand, we need to break the term down, or we need to break the work down. Well, that was what I had said to Francis. And then Francis had said it to Wallace. And I play this game because sometimes I make up different analogies. Nothing that anybody else had said. I make up different words. And when I hear somebody else using the words that I said with confidence because they're the leader, okay, let them be confident. We're going in the direction that's good. And this is probably one of my favorite parts here. I've got these trophies in my office and I never bring them out. But when I'm sitting in meetings, I give people awards. Who in this meeting had the most words? Congratulations, you get the most words award. Who in the meeting had the best ideas? That's what I listen for. And I hope that this next screen is helpful for you because I learned about this and I think about it every day. There's different levels of granularity. We can have data, and then you've got information where you add some color to the data. And your knowledge is all the connections. This is connected to that, that's connected to that. You know how your system works. And then you have insight. When this happens here, oh, that's going to come out over here. And wisdom is being able to tell that path. Now, as developers, we will talk about something in that order, and that hurts us. We will give all of the information and all of the knowledge and mention the insight, assuming the other person will come to the same conclusion that we did. And they hate that. They don't want to have to think that much. What they want, and I force myself to do this every single day, start with the problem. You're thinking about all of this. Start with the problem. Get to the solution. Most managers, executives, you can keep their attention at this point. I got it. Problem, solution. How do we get there? Here's the path. That might be as far as you get in many conversations. You may have all of this, but you won't use it. Or maybe they're going to ask questions. Yeah, but what about? Or how does this work? Or what about this other thing? Cool. You need to be prepared with this and you need to speak to it. And then if you have some other developers in the room and they start questioning this low level detail, that's where you think about this model. And when they get down into that level, you say, good question. We will talk about it later. I am not having this conversation with the vice president in the room. I'm keeping the vice president conversation right here. I'll give you my business card. We can talk more and we can geek out later. Just be aware though. This is as political as I'm going to get today. But you know what I mean. All right, so in summary here, 3 main areas. Self, will and skill. What can you do? Learn the code smells. Learn how to refactor. Figure out what the patterns are and do those katas. Every morning, set 15 minutes. Maybe you meditate or maybe you take the dog out for a walk. Find 15 minutes whenever it's good for you to go through a kata so you can do the things on the keyboard without even thinking about it. That's wonderful practice. 2, take all the things that you did for yourself, add that to the team, and isolate. Don't have your team connected with everybody else. Find a way to give your team some boundaries so you guys can work together well. Independent pipelines, and show them that you are willing to put the work in because they will follow your leadership. And with the stakeholders, we want to reduce our work in progress. We want to focus on throughput, get the stuff out the door. They care about that. And then we'll have some safe experiments. We'll do some visualization. And we will try to influence them succinctly. And I use the word succinctly because the first time I gave this talk, I said, be clear and concise. That's what you need to do. Be clear and concise. And a friend in the front row said, I think you mean succinct. Always be learning. All right, here's the slides. Here's my contact information. I'll be around today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.